What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome into the Bulls Report. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we have the latest rumors around Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine, as we are getting reports that two teams could be interested in the center from the Chicago Bulls. But before we dive into that, guys, I was looking at some analytics here at Chat Sports, and our Celtics Today show, great program, love what they do over there, but they picked up 12 subscribers on their video yesterday. I want to beat that. The Celtics just won the championship, and obviously the Bulls are where they are, right now. If they can beat us, maybe on the court, but let's beat them here within the walls of Chat Sports. If you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button, help us out. Really goes a long way. But let's start off with the Zach LaVine report we got, and this is from Joe Cali of the Chicago Sun-Times, and it just pretty much puts more fuel to the fire that it may be getting toxic in Chicago. But he said Zach LaVine doesn't trust the Bulls front office and coaching staff fully. And again, Joe Cali was breaking this news of the Chicago Sun-Times. And, when I heard this, I immediately thought that this is just LaVine being LaVine. Like, I will say, Clutch Sports and Zach LaVine, they have been very vocal this offseason, but I don't think it's been getting enough media attention. Like, we get this report from Joe Cali saying that LaVine is unhappy. And then on top of that, we had Rich Paul coming out and saying this a couple weeks ago, and it didn't really make any headlines. Like, I feel like not enough media outlets or just NBA, media members are talking about this, but this is coming in from Rich Paul saying, I want to make this clean and clear. This whole idea that Zach has been anything but professional in this situation is false. This guy has played hurt. He has represented the franchise with class. A lot has taken place during his time with the Bulls, and he's taken the high road every time. Does every player get frustrated at times? Yes. But Zach has been the ultimate professional and deserves better. I'll tell you this, Rich Paul, pretty much the GM of the Lakers, come get your man. If you're going to come out here and say all this about Zach LaVine, defending him with the Chicago Bulls, like, it has just became so obvious that I think Rich Paul and LaVine want him to end up with the Los Angeles Lakers. And I'm sure they have had countless trade talks, and I'm also sure that Arturas Karnisovas has probably been very stingy on giving up Zach LaVine. I'm sure he's trying to get the Lakers, 2029 first-round pick, which they obviously wouldn't not give up, for LaVine. But, I just think this is, Rich Paul and Zach LaVine just, it's just creating a toxic situation here with the Bulls, and it's even more reason to trade him. Like, I talk about moving off Zach LaVine and what that could do for the development of younger players, just with them getting more shots, with them, upping their usage rate. I think that's the number one way to develop young talent in the NBA. And now with this situation getting toxic, it's even more ammunition for the Bulls to move off him. But what could a trade look like between the Lakers and the Bulls? I think it's going to have to be a three-team deal. I've been sitting in the trade machine this whole offseason trying to figure out what's the best way to facilitate a Bulls-Lakers trade, and this was the best one I could come up with without the Bulls giving up even the Portland pick or the 2 second-round picks that they got from the Sacramento Kings. But it is the Bulls receiving D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, Christian Wood. The Lakers would get Zach LaVine, Torrey Craig, and a second from the Bulls in 2030. And then the Pistons help facilitate this trade. They take on Carter, take on Cam Reddish, take on Jackson Hayes, and they'll get a 2031 second-round pick for that. But I do think LaVine would offer great value to the Lakers. Now, I don't think Zach LaVine is underrated when I'm saying this, but I do think he has almost been overly criticized this offseason, and a lot of that has to do with the contract. Like, I think people, and for right reason, they view Zach LaVine, they view his production, and they also look at his contract, and they probably come to the conclusion that, he is not worth that, but I almost think that diminishes his value of what people think it is on the basketball court, because this was a guy in the 3 seasons before last who was averaging damn near 25 points per game, damn near 50% from the field, and almost a 40% three-point shooter. LaVine has been fantastic when it comes to, putting the ball in the bucket. You obviously got the question marks around his leadership, around his defensive ability, and I understand that, but could you imagine this big three in Los Angeles, where it would be Anthony Davis, LeBron James, and Zach LaVine? Like, the Lakers would have a solid big three here. I mean, you guys see it. Like, AD, LeBron, and Zach LaVine, I would honestly like that a lot for the Lake Show. Like, you would have the defensive anchor in Anthony Davis. Even though LeBron is older, you would have that playmaking forward. And then you would have the offensive guard where that's all he would need to focus on, because you would still have Austin Reeves to play make. Then you would still have the defensive anchor in Anthony Davis. You could just tell LaVine, hey, go get us 25, 30 a night and be efficient while doing so, and they could be a good basketball team. And I will make this note about the Lakers. I find it hard to believe that the Los Angeles Lakers are going to just roll into the season with the roster they have now, knowing that they could lose LeBron James at any time just due to retirement, or maybe opts out of that player option next year and head somewhere else. But I do want to look at some other trade destinations for Zach LaVine. You got the San Antonio Spurs. I originally thought the Spurs could be big on LaVine because, again, you think of the red flags, and the defense, and the leadership. I thought the Spurs could amass that pretty easily, as you got Spurs coach and Greg Popovich to take care of the leadership part of it, and then also you would have Wemby to take care of the defense. But I thought the Spurs are going to be higher on this list than I thought, but obviously nothing has really came true there. But what about the Clippers? Clippers, hometown team, they needed a third star. Very similar reasons for the Lakers. Then the Pistons and the Nets. Maybe those are just two teams where they're just like, we need more talent on our basketball team. We need to put more butts in seats. And obviously LaVine is a human, highlight reel at this point. But I'll ask you guys, I'll make this the pin comment on today's video. Will Zach LaVine play another game with the Chicago Bulls? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no down in the comments section. Curious to see what you guys have to say. Now, coming up next year on the show, are two teams interested in trading for Nikola Vucevic? We'll talk about that here in a second. But first off, guys, I want to tell you about the sweet deal we have going on right now at chatsports.com/BullsCombo. We have a 2 t-shirt pack going for $29.99. I got these 2 shirts last offseason. Super comfortable, wash really well, and plus, I think they're absolutely awesome. So if you guys want to represent your Chicago Bulls this summer and, up until the start of the regular season, hit this link, chatsports.com/BullsCombo. All right, let's talk about the 2 Nikola Vucevic trade destinations. So we're going to start off here talking about the New York Knicks, and we'll talk about the New Orleans Pelicans. So the New York Knicks, now, I do not think the Knicks are desperate for Vooch, but let's just say, they lost Isaiah Hartenstein. They're not the biggest fans of maybe Jericho Sims, Precious Achiuwa stepping into that backup center role behind Mitchell Robinson. Maybe they want a more solid, proven veteran, a guy who has been healthy, like Nikola Vucevic. And also we got this report from Joe Cowley, where he said the Bulls won't get much back in a Nikola Vucevic trade. Yeah, I agree, Joe. We have known this for a very long time, that the Bulls might get fleeced in a potential Nikola Vucevic trade. Now, let's focus in on the Knicks front here. So this was a trade idea I had. Don't know if the Knicks offer this. Maybe the Bulls need to throw in maybe that Portland Trailblazers pick, but I will say I could see the New York Knicks moving off Deuce McBride here in a little bit. They just signed Cam Payne a couple days ago. Maybe they just view him as that backup guard who can come in and run the second unit. And honestly, from the Mitchell Robinson perspective with the New York Knicks, he has been great, but he also hasn't been that available. And the one thing about Vooch, even though he drives me crazy, and he is nowhere the defensive center that Mitchell Robinson is, but the one thing about Vooch that I will give him, his respect for is he has been healthy and he has been a plus offensively over the past couple of years. But let's talk about Mitchell Robinson here for the Bulls. I would love this. Even though you do have the red flags, he has not stayed healthy over the last 2 seasons specifically. Only 30 games last year, 59 the year before that. And, even back in 2020, he only played, 31 games. But the thing is with Mitchell Robinson, he's one of the best offensive rebounders in the league. He's one of the best lob catchers. He's one of the best defensive centers. He's great in drop coverage. He does have an ability to switch out on the guards. He can make them work at a pretty high level. And overall, he has been fantastic for New York. And I want to date back to a playoff series 2 years ago when he went up against Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, that front court they had for Cleveland. People were talking about it as one of the best in the NBA before the series. Mitchell Robinson came in and dominated. In 5 games, in 28 minutes per game, almost averaged a double-double with 5.8 offensive rebounds per game. That is ridiculous. And then also the stocks. 2.2 blocks, 1.2 steals, feeling his impact defensively. And if I honestly had to dream about a center combo for the Chicago Bulls this upcoming season, the combination of Mitchell Robinson and Jalen Smith would be fantastic because that gives you an ability to run a big lineup with Mitchell Robinson at the 5, Jalen Smith at the 4. You got him as that stretch 4. You could still run some 4 out with that defensive anchor. I think would be great, but also just a yin and yang of those guys going in and out at the 5, where you had Mitchell Robinson, he can protect the rim. He's a great lob threat, and then Jalen Smith, he can be a great pick and pop guy, a great spot up 3-point shooter. I would absolutely love that combo for the Bulls. But then also this, you'd be getting Deuce McBride. He is one of my favorite players in the NBA. I did a lot of Knicks coverage here at Chat Sports over the past couple of years, and just seeing this guy develop has been one of the honestly underrated stories in the NBA. Doubt the Knicks would want to give him up, but hey, maybe with the addition of campaign, they would be down too. But this past season was his breakout year, 8.3 points per game, very efficient, up this 3-point percentage by 11, by 12, going from 29.9 to 41, and his playoff numbers are pretty solid as well, averaging 7 points a game, 1.2 assists, and again, pretty efficient. And Deuce would bring some toughness to the Bulls, and I think we lost that when we got rid of Alex Caruso. The more I thought about this Caruso-Giddey trade, the more I've liked it, because I think it just fits a timeline more with the Bulls. You're adding a guy who's 21 years old and one of the best passers in the NBA, and I think Deuce, just being that point of attack defender he is, would truly add some grit and grind to this Bulls backcourt. But what about another trade? What about the New Orleans Pelicans? Because, they right now have Daniel Tice, Yves Missi as their center rotation. They also have been rumored to be wanting to trade Brandon Ingram for the longest time. Let's knock out both those with one trade. So it would be the Pelicans receiving Vooch and Torrey Craig, and then the Spurs get involved and try to take advantage of Wemby still on his rookie deal. They bring in Brandon Ingram. They bring in Lonzo Ball, and I actually think the Spurs would love this deal because both those guys are on expiring contracts. If the kind of fit doesn't work this upcoming year, they can just move off them. But the Bulls would be getting Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins. If the Bulls could swing Keldon Johnson, I think it would be fantastic. He's one of my favorite players in the league, plays super hard every single night, 6'5", really physical guard, wing defender. He has a really strong chest, which just helps him, cut off drivers when they're trying to turn that corner on him. And plus, this past season, he was great. Almost 16 points a night, pretty efficient, shooting around 45% on his field goals and then 35% from downtown, average 5.5 boards and 2.8 assists as well. And, I'll wrap up this video by saying this. The Bulls are so close to having, in my opinion, a perfect offseason. They set themselves up by not, moving off LaVine, Vooch, DeRozan this past trade deadline, where it's going to be tricky, to pivot to this rebuild and pivot to this youth movement. You are just 2 deals away from having a great chance of having your pick next season convey and be in the top 10, and also just create a great young and up-and-coming roster which fans will be able to buy into. They are that close to making it happen. Just trade LaVine, trade Vooch, and it'll all work out. Sometimes you need to take 1 step backwards to take 2 steps forwards. That's all on today's show. But if you guys made it to the end of today's program, give me a real one down in the comments section so I know who all the real ones are. Show you guys some extra love, down there in the comments. But yeah, I really do appreciate you guys tuning in for today's show. If you guys want to give me a follow on Twitter as well, that's the handle @PatSeeps. If you guys do so, I'll give you guys a follow back. But thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next time. As always, go Bulls.